Richard.
Hey, hey Daniel, what's up?
So, do you go by Richard or Rich?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
So, what really attracted me to your work?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say like a hominess, but there's a familiarity around it. Even though the colors are a little bit out of the norm, you do a lot of blue paintings, but it doesn't feel melodramatic. It still has that essence of I've kind of been there, or I can see somebody's story in this. Why did you develop that art style, or how did you develop that art style?
Ah, so I probably have to kind of go a bit back because a few years ago I wasn't even like painting figures at all. It was just more about the magic, exploring this magic world. There are all these animals, and these animals, they represented different like emotions, different feelings, and I was trying to use them as like metaphors to understand a bit more about myself. But eventually, I think it was in 2020 that I started this series. I think it was called Mr. Hills and Me, and then it was like a series about like anxiety and how I was dealing with that during the time. We know how 2020 was.
Yes.
Yeah, and I started to paint people there because I was talking. It was a story about me and what I was going through, and then I started to paint there. And then eventually I couldn't use browns for the skin. I just kind of started to use blue, and it just was something that was natural to me. It took me some time to figure out why that really was. But now fast forward to the Reimagine Nanny competition. It was this competition that I had to that I won to create a portrait of Nanny, and I guess that piece was something that helped to merge all of the different worlds that I was exploring, because there's this natural world within the painting. I started to go to see how I can tell my story through figures. I did a series called Breathe, did a series called Mirror with about looking at yourself and a lot of studies of psychology, and then eventually this reimagined piece, it brought together everything that I was learning into one piece. It had the figuration there, but it had a story behind it. It had this magic world where everything was in, and I think it was after doing that piece I started to really branch out to see how this works out in my main work that I was doing. And I really felt so drawn to just the blue skin. But looking back, it was because of my early encounter with blue skin, majestic being. So I remember when I was young, I visited the house that my father grew up in, and I saw a portrait of my grandfather for the first time. And it came as a shock because he didn't look anything like me. He didn't really look much like my father either. He's a Indian man, so after seeing him, I got a bit curious into Hindu spirituality. I explored that, and I saw that they sometimes express some of their majestic beings with blue skin,
Right.
and that was what stayed with me all this time. I realized that I couldn't paint when I was started to tell my story through figures. I couldn't paint them using browns, because blues made a lot more sense to me. It's because of my early encounter with blue skin majestic beings, and considering myself and the black figures I paint as majestic beings. And the blue skin, it only made sense, and it's been something that I've been really exploring. And another aspect to the blue skins was because I use what I call living water within the work, which is water from natural sources such as rivers, waterfalls. The water that I use in the
I
skin now,
noticed that.
yeah, it's from
Yes.
it's from the Rio Grande River, and I took that water right across from where Queen Nanny is buried. So that water carries a lot of meanings, a lot of energy being put into the painting. I mean, physically you won't be able to see any difference whether it is this water or that water, but that's on a deeper spiritual level. I think it makes a world a different to have all these different worlds within the painting. I took some of that water when I went to Ghana to do my residency. You know, I was painting with water from Ghana and water from Jamaica. And, I think there's something just so magical with that. It's almost like each painting is like a portal into those two worlds at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I didn't even remember what the question was, but I guess
No,
I kind
I'm
of.
enjoying hearing this because I watched some of your reels for the sheer fact that you're just a really good storyteller. You're a
Oh,
very
thank
good
you, thank you.
storyteller. So I remember that part where you were talking about your heritage and how you realized that kind of influenced your work. So I think another thing that stands out to me about your work is that you're able to not only help the audience understand the emotion, but you're also able to kind of transport them into your mind, so to speak, because I'm getting that imaginative feel to it, or, this is what's going on in my head. This is the world that's in my head.
Yes.
So I do want to kind of talk more about that a little bit later. Tips for artists of how they can put their own spin on their art and be able to kind of convey the emotion, even if it might not be as blatant as a facial expression. Is it a color? Is it the way you're painting something?
Yeah.
Is it, the backdrop? Is it elements such as water? Because when you add water to your paintings, I feel calm. How would you give advice to younger artists or upcoming artists about how do I add those elements, my heritage, the feeling, the ambience, you know?
I was like questions that like that because it's such a simple answer, but it's not so simple when you're in it trying to figure it out. The biggest thing is to really believe that your thoughts and your story is worthy to be expressed. To actually believe that your story, your experiences are something worth sharing. They're something worth being embraced. Because a lot of times we watch documentaries, we watch all sorts of things, we watch movie stars doing things, and sometimes you think, oh, they're important people, so their story is a story. Whatever they do, that's a story and thing. But it's the same for us, anybody. Whatever happens, your experiences, they're worth being shared. They're all a story, and it's really believing that really helps. So I think it's the first stage into really kind of being kind of putting yourself out there and really learning how to feel. You have to just really learn a lot more about you, learn how to kind of feel yourself, and then
So
just
there's a correlation between knowing yourself and being able to express yourself.
exactly, because there is this very thin line of understanding how things are traditionally done, and just kind of not caring about how things are supposed to be. And then right in between there is where this kind of boldness come out, that where you can say, okay, well, that's how people usually do it. I might know how to do it like that, but that's not how I want to do it. That's not how I would do it. And then you can just be more honest with yourself and just say, okay, let me kind of follow that light a bit more into myself, because that was a stage with me. I remember even when I just started to do like even figurative work. I was studying like a lot of what was happening, and I said, okay, cool. Let me try this. Maybe there's something in here for me to kind of to figure out. So I tried it, and then I learned so much from it. But I knew that the work that I was doing there, maybe it really wasn't the truest version of me. It was probably just a kind of stepping stone, and eventually I moved from that. I said, well, I like telling my story with figures, but there has to be more of a story within this. I need to put more of myself, and that's kind of how the work is what it is now. It's all these different stories, all these things that I'm genuinely interested in. I'm doing some more paintings now within this magic world, and there's like this giant mongoose that flies around within this world. I've done a few newer pieces.
Is that based in any way off of Jamaican folklore at all?
So the flying mongoose, I'm not sure, but I know that like the mongoose as an animal is especially within Indian spirituality, Hindu spirituality. There are a lot of stories around that animal, and I personally I was thinking like do I paint a flying mongoose? Will people not take my work serious? And then there's I don't care if anybody takes it serious. I mean, that's up to them. This is my story here, and these are things that are special to me, and I'm going to tell the story. And I think it's kind of in between there, because people will always come and try to qualify themselves into an opinion on your work. And it's important for you as a creative person, as an artist, to qualify whose opinion you will take. Because you can't allow certain things to go into the back of your mind. It can really mess you up when you take too much advice. You have to understand that some people, you can just be polite and say, okay, that's all right. I get where you're coming from. But no, you don't mentally agree with it. That's okay, yeah.
You just move on.
You just move on.
Right.
Then there are people who are qualified. People who actually understand your work, and it doesn't just because a person is a curator or a gallerist doesn't mean they're qualified to even speak on your work. They might not understand what type of work that you're doing. I remember a gallerist telling me like my work was terrible, basically. Yeah.
This is the end of part 1. Hit that notification bell to be notified when part 2 comes out. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and follow for more.